Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Off the Bench podcast. Thank you so much for joining us for our Week 9 Instant Reactions video, where we react to all the goodness from this Saturday in the college football world. I cannot wait to talk about all these matchups. So much happened once again this week. And to quote my good friend, Gary Danielson, the thing that is the best about college football, no matter where you are, no matter what team you're a fan of, what conference you watch the most, whatever it is, in college football, no matter how much you watch, you always think you've seen it all, but in fact, you never really have. And we've just got more of this, not only this Saturday, but this entire season. So much in college football keeps on happening that we've never seen before. And it's just so beautiful because you know that every week you're going to be hit with some sort of crazy inning. You're going to be hit with some sort of impact player, some sort of crazy one-handed catch. You never know what's going to happen, and it always catches you by surprise, and it's always so fantastic. We had a lot of huge results this Saturday. A couple top 10 teams were scared. They were spooked. Either they were on the road, they were at home, whatever it was, and they struggled, but they pulled out wins. Not a single top 10 team went down this week, but a couple ranked teams did. Some conference title races are really starting to shape up, especially in the ACC. And the Big 12, I think today taught us a lot about a lot of those conferences. And then, of course, also in the SEC. Huge wins for some teams that their coaches were on the hot seat. And then huge losses for some teams where their coaches were on the hot seat. I think you know what I'm talking about, LSU. Those folks down in Baton Rouge. If it wasn't already hot and humid down there for Brian Kelly, it is getting hotter and even more humid for their head coach. But we're not going to start there. We are going to start where College Game Day was, where the Vanderbilt Commodores just took down the Missouri Tigers, top 15 ranked Missouri Tigers. Vanderbilt's beaten 2 top 15 teams in a row. That used to never happen ever, ever. Vanderbilt is always getting swallowed, smoked, killed against top 15 teams, and we just blinked twice, and they beat 2 in a row. Vanderbilt's 7-1 for the first time since 1941. We keep saying this about Vanderbilt stats. This is not an exaggeration. And I know it might sound like an exaggeration. I'm being over the top, and I'm being way too charismatic and in on this Vanderbilt team. But I am not lying when I am saying this is the best Vanderbilt football team ever. Not since, not in certain eras, but ever. This is the best Vanderbilt football has ever been. And I am just so jealous of those Vanderbilt students. I'm so jealous of those Vanderbilt fans that get to sit back every Saturday and watch this team play football and watch their Vanderbilt Commodores win football games. I think it's epic. I find myself cheering for Vanderbilt all the time because it is such a great story. They're going to be, I don't know if they'll move up in the top 10 because no one above them lost, but they're going to be ranked in the top 10 for consecutive weeks. Again, hasn't happened since 1941. That was when World War II was going on. That was before the Beatles released music. In 1941, it's a completely different time. Nothing is the same then than it is now. It is nuts how historically good this Vanderbilt football team is. Now, going into the year, of course, Vanderbilt had an historic season last year in terms of them winning games in the SEC. They beat Alabama, of course, huge win. Number 1 Alabama, biggest win of the season almost that anyone ever had. Biggest win in program history for Vanderbilt. They also beat Auburn, they beat Kentucky, they had some huge SEC wins, and they won a bowl game. And then heading into this season, of course, the talk of the town is Diego Pavia is coming back. The quarterback that led to all the success is returning. And everyone's talking about him. And when Vanderbilt was good in the first few games of the season, everyone's saying, oh, Vanderbilt, man, they got Diego Pavia. Diego Pavia's back there making plays. I can't wait to see Diego Pavia the rest of this year. Watch out, Alabama. Diego Pavia's coming into town. He's going to make plays. Well, guess what, ladies and gentlemen? How many starters are on a football team? Well, I'll tell you. On offense and defense, it's 11 each. That equals 22. That's 22 starters on offense and defense. Not even mentioning all the bench players, the second strings, the backups, the third strings, the reserves, the walk-ons. Football teams are made up of a lot more than one person. And this Vanderbilt football team is not Diego Pavia. It is not just one Diego Pavia. against 22 Missouri Tigers. This is a collective football team, a collective unit on offense and defense that is going out there and making a mockery of some of the best teams in the SEC. I mean, this is LSU and Missouri that they've just taken down. This has never happened. And it's not just Diego Pavia. I mean, I could pull up Diego Pavia's stats real quick just to prove my point. He did not go out there and dominate and win this football game. I mean, Diego Pavia was 10 for 19. He completed 10 passes for 129 yards and an interception. Not even a passing touchdown. Not even 130 yards passing. And not even 11 completions. So, no, Diego Pavia did not play unbelievably. Vanderbilt is not winning these games because Pavia is throwing for 400 yards and 4 touchdowns. That's not what's happening. He only had 20 yards rushing. He had a rushing touchdown. It was big. It was awesome. He leaped over a Missouri player and just put his body on the line for a touchdown, which is what I love about football. Another reason why I love Diego Pavia. But this team is way more than Diego Pavia. And I think that's the narrative going around, is that Diego Pavia is a Heisman candidate. He's carrying this Vanderbilt team. It's all about him. This was not about Diego Pavia at all. Mostly, this was about the defense. I mean, they held Missouri to 10 points. This is a Missouri team that's been running up and down the field on most of their opponents, other than Auburn, of course, and Alabama to a certain extent. But even they put up 24 against the Crimson Tide, and Vandy held them to 10. So incredibly impressive performance, words are hard sometimes, by this Vanderbilt defense. Missouri hasn't really been a threat downfield against anybody, and Missouri did a great job of taking away the downfield passing game. I know Bo Prabula went down. We'll talk more about that later when we shift gears to Missouri. Vanderbilt's linebackers played huge. They really made a lot of big plays, especially on third down. The pass rush was there. It wasn't elite, but it was there. And I'm really proud of this Vanderbilt defense. I think on offense, this Vanderbilt team made so many plays to help out Diego Pavia. So many big catches. I mean, I could just go down the list and name just some big plays that people made. First of all, of course, credit to Diego Pavia. The touchdown run was awesome. I think this is what is so great about this kid. I'm talking about Diego Pavia. There was a 3rd and goal, I think it was, where he scored. And they just gave the ball, put it in his hands, blocked Zion Young, I think it was, on the outside. Pavia had a lane. Missouri plugged it, and he just put his ball down the line, dived over a couple guys, and scored a touchdown. That is Diego Pavia right there. The heart, the effort, not caring about his own physical well-being and just caring about the team. That is why this team loves him so much. That is why he embodies the passion of Vanderbilt football. But for the most part, it was other guys. It was MK Young. How about that MK Young 80-yard touchdown run, man? It looked like he was bottled up. I really thought he did. Stowers had a great block that sealed the outside, and then he just outran the Tigers. MK Young, that dude can run. Vanderbilt's got some athletes. They're not just a bunch of nerds anymore. How about Eli Stowers, man? I just made a comment about his blocking. That dude made a snag in the red zone. I think it was man coverage. He had a linebacker on him, and Pavia just sort of laid it up in between the high safety and the linebacker that was covering him, and Stowers just high-pointed the football, spinning around, just crazy catch. And then, of course, he gets up and does Jesus loves you in sign language, which is why I love Eli Stowers, is because he's a great Christian. But Stowers is making big plays. MK Young's making big plays. How about Trey Richardson? I don't know how many of y'all saw that catch on the sideline that Richardson made, but Pavia, great throw, put it up one-on-one for his dude, Trey Richardson. He makes the catch, somehow toe taps in bounds. There were some amazing catches this week, by the way, in college football, in the LSU game, in the Texas game. But this was the biggest catch in this game, other than the Stowers one, was the one Trey Richardson made. Just an absolute snag. Basically, what I'm trying to say is Vanderbilt, they have some athletes. They have some dudes that can win one-on-one. They have some guys who really have to go out there and game plan for, which was good, by the way, because there was no consistency with this Vanderbilt offense, if I'm being completely honest. They, of course, didn't really have much of a passing game at all, and they only ran the ball for 137 yards. Were not spectacular on third down. They didn't hold the ball for very long, so they really weren't very consistent at all on offense, but they just made big plays in the big moments, especially on defense. I talked about the big stop that they made. I mean, Missouri had it 4th and goal at the 2. They had it like 2nd and goal at the 2, And Vanderbilt stopped him not one, not two, but 3 times. This is one of the best offensive lines in the SEC, one of the best running back rooms in the SEC that Vanderbilt held in check. They didn't dominate them most of the game, but on the goal line, they stood up and they made plays. Langston Patterson, that guy, he just leaves it all on the field. I love an identity of a linebacker that says, I don't care. I don't care how I feel on Sunday because I'm going out there and I'm giving it my all on Saturday, and that's all I care about. That's Langston Patterson to me. That's the starting Mike linebacker for the Vanderbilt Commodores. And that dude's a dog. You could tell he wants to win football games for this football team. Not only that, the strip fumble that they had in the fourth quarter, that was huge. I mean, I think it was Zellers that was in at the time. It was definitely Zellers. I think Zellers is how you say his name? I don't know. It's a weird spelling. But Missouri's backup quarterback had the ball, and Vanderbilt just took it away from him. I mean, literally, if you don't believe me, go watch the tape. They literally just grabbed the ball away from them. Huge play in a huge moment. Of course, Missouri missed a field goal, and Missouri they won the big moments. They were better in the red zone, and they made plays when it mattered the most. Huge stuff from Vanderbilt. I'm very proud of what I saw from this team. And, of course, the rest of the way, I mean, Vanderbilt, according to the All-State playoff predictor, I think has like a 51% chance to make the playoffs. They're 7-1. They've only got one loss. The one loss, of course, is on the road at Alabama. Nothing to be ashamed of. They played well in that game, too. But they also have to play at Texas, at Tennessee, Auburn, and Kentucky. I think it's the rest of their schedule. Not in that order. But in my opinion, if you want to give yourself a chance, you're going to have to, I guess, win 2 of the next 4 games. If you're 9-3, it's really, really on the edge. But if Vanderbilt, if they win 3 of their next 4, they are not only in the playoffs, they give themselves a chance to make the SEC championship game, but they are definitely in the playoffs. So, of course, Auburn and Kentucky are the easier ones to win. If you can pull those 2 out, and Auburn is not going to be an easy out, but if they can win those 2 games, and they can either go on the road and win at Tennessee or go on the road and win at Texas, then Vanderbilt will be in the playoffs. I mean, again, that's just a crazy sentence. I mean, it's not right now because people are like, of course. I mean, they're top 10. They've beaten Missouri. They've beaten LSU. Saying Vanderbilt's going to make the playoffs isn't crazy. But if you told that same person 2 years ago that the 12-team playoffs would feature Vanderbilt, they would say, well, I just don't believe you. There's no way. Vanderbilt, the team that's been a bottom feeder all these years in the SEC, there's no way they make the 12-team playoffs. Well, guess what? There is a very realistic path for the Commodores to do just that. All right, now let's talk about Missouri. So, Missouri did lose this football game, but I'm going to read out just who won each of these certain metrics. So if I were to tell you that Vanderbilt beat Missouri 17-10, and I were to tell you that one of the 2 teams had more time of possession by a whopping 13 minutes, one of them had over 100 more total yards, one had over 33 more total plays, one had more passing yards, one had more rushing yards, and one had this, and they had the same amount of turnovers, you would have said, oh, Vanderbilt would have won all those stats, right? Surely, if Vanderbilt won by 7, they had more time of possession, they had more total yards, more passing yards, way more total plays. But that's not the case. Missouri is the one that dominated the stat sheet. They did. They ran the ball better than Vanderbilt. They threw the ball better than Vanderbilt. They controlled the clock better than Vanderbilt. They had way more plays than Vanderbilt. They were better on third down than Vanderbilt. So why did Missouri lose this game? How could that possibly have happened? I mean, going into the game, I said the game plan was to actually feed Ahmad Hardy and get him going against this quote-unquote soft Vanderbilt rush defense. And they gave Ahmad Hardy 20 carries. It's not like they shied away from it. And they gave Jamal Roberts 10. And that's more than they gave him against Alabama. Was it enough? To me, no. I think they should have handed the ball off more. But it was a decent amount. They didn't lose the game because of it. And yet, even on offense, I mean, yes, Bo Prabula went down. And it was sad. I mean, we hope he gets better soon. But I'm not going to lie. Zellers, the backup quarterback that went in there, I think he played better than Bo Prabula. I think Bo going down didn't really hurt them that much. I think they played better on offense. I mean, Zellers was out there. It's not like he was making NFL throw after NFL throw, and he was evading pressure perfectly and making perfect reads, and he had awesome footwork. That's not the case. But this dude was a baller. And I'm talking about the backup quarterback then for the people that didn't catch it. Zellers is his name. I don't remember his first name. Matt Zellers. So Matt Zellers got pressured a lot and was able to evade it really, really well. He played really well with his legs. And was he afraid to throw it sometimes? Yes, but there were some dig routes that he just ripped. Of course, he was very inaccurate, especially on the sideline, but I liked what I saw from him more than I liked what I saw from Bo Prabula. Of course, when Bo Prabula went down, he was 9 for 14 for 68 yards. That's it. So they didn't really lose very much. So again, back to the question, why did they lose this football game? In my opinion, it's for two reasons. First of all, they had no big plays, really. None in the run game, none in the pass game. You had one, I think it was like a 34-yard run from Kevin Coleman, and then a 36-yard catch from Kevin Coleman. Other than that, no plays of 20 yards or more for this Missouri offense. Vanderbilt did a great job bottling them up in that department. And then also, Missouri just lost the big moments. They just made some big mistakes. Whether it was getting stuffed inside their own, or inside Vanderbilt's 3-yard line 3 times and turning it over. Whether it was the fumble at the fourth quarter from the backup quarterback, whether it was the missed 29-yard field goal, Missouri just kind of sort of shot themselves in the foot and then didn't make up with it or make that up with big plays. It really wasn't there. So Missouri should have won. Very frustrating for Drinkwitz's team. Missouri still got their season in front of them. They have a pretty manageable SEC schedule the rest of the way. They have to play A&M. But other than that, their SEC games aren't as tough as some other schools. And their season is still in front of them. That is for sure. So, disappointing loss for Missouri. If they really wanted to make the playoffs, they kind of had to win this game in my eyes. And they didn't. They fell short. But I just don't think that they have enough talent at the quarterback position and at the wide receiver position to actually make noise nationally this year. And I think this game made that apparent. But this game is not about Missouri. This game is about the Vanderbilt Commodores getting another huge, huge victory. So proud of my Doors. So proud of my sweet baby boy Diego. And just so happy for the Vanderbilt fan base that they are getting the best Vanderbilt team ever to come through in 2025. With that, we're going to move a little west and a little south and a little bit farther back time-wise to where the Texas A&M football Aggies waltzed in to Death Valley and nearly doubled up LSU. And this game was nuts. I mean, of course, we've heard all week, just all week long, about how LSU is 20-1 at home during the night with Brian Kelly as the head coach. I heard that stat about 1,000,000 times going into this football game. And I will say, all credit to LSU. They know how to throw a college football party. I mean, that atmosphere with the lights, I love a night game in Death Valley. It is so spectacular to watch. Some people have a lot of beef with all the smoke pregame that LSU does, with all the fireworks and everything when the teams are on the field. And it makes the first quarter a little smoky, and it's weird with the TV angle. A lot of people don't like that. I love that. I think that's so cool. I love turning on an LSU game and I see all the smoke and I'm like, dude, we're hyped. This is about to be an electric football game. They really do things right down there in Death Valley. I just have to say that to start. But wow, what an absolute tale of, I would say tale of two halves, but it was really a tale of 4 quarters. I mean, of course, the first half, I guess I'll just start with the first half. This game was fairly even. And score-wise, at least, of course, LSU took a halftime lead, 18-14 going into the tunnel. But if you looked at the score of this game, if you went outside at halftime to throw the football with your friends and y'all got a little carried away, you saw Trey Green make big plays for the Tigers, and you saw LSU at home at night with the lead going into halftime, and then you went out with your buddies, tossed around the pigskin, drank a couple lemonades, whatever it was, and you came back in and you looked at the scoreboard and you said, what the heck? It's 42-18? What happened, Brian Kelly? LSU, y'all are playing so well. What could have possibly occurred? That's how I felt in this game, and I think that's how a lot of other people felt, but I'm just going to start off by saying this Texas A&M offense is elite. It is explosive. It is talented. All the levels of the offense are really, really good, and by that I mean quarterback, skill position players, and offensive line. They're spectacular. I mean, before this game, and I've said this all year that I don't trust Marcel Reed, I still am kind of in that boat. If you make Marcel Reed throw the ball, I don't think he can beat you. He was 12 for 21, 202 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 2 bad interceptions in this football game. Frankly, I think this should have been a whole lot worse. I think Texas A&M should have scored a whole lot more points than they did. They had the red zone interception that Marcel Reed threw. They had another interception that he threw. I think that this game should have been even more lopsided towards Texas A&M's favor. But Marcel Reed is, of course, electric when he gets outside the pocket. This team can run the ball really, really well. They didn't really run it really that well against LSU on the ground with their running backs that much, but, I mean, they didn't really need to. And then, of course, they've surrounded Marcel Reed with so many weapons that can just make awesome plays after the catch. I mean, you look at Casey Concepcion, Mario Craver, even Bethel Roman. I mean, if you watched his one-handed catch you'd go, dang, that's their 4-string wide receiver? That's a true freshman? That dude's scary, and he's talented. That one-handed catch, my goodness. Not even the best catch we saw this week, by the way, but that was a heck of a play. Of course, Casey Concepcion makes plays after the catch. So does Mario Craver. So much skill, so much speed. They're dynamic. They're wiggly. They're hard to bring down. And this A&M offensive line is just the crown jewel of the Texas A&M offensive system. They don't allow almost any pressures. I mean, Marcel Reed has time to read the daily paper and drink at least 2 cups of coffee when he's back there in the pocket. They pass protect better than almost any offensive line in the country. And they open up a lot of creases for this run game, whether it's counter. They run a lot of counter. They run a lot of base. It's just good stuff. Pin and pull is so deadly with these guards. It's just this offensive line is good. And by the way, this is an LSU defense that everyone is praising all year long. That this Blake Baker defense, it's different. LSU's defense is different this year. It's going to be awesome. They're going to shut teams down. Well, A&M just went into your place and dropped nearly a 50-burger. And I think it should have been a 50-burger. So, yikes. But before we start talking about the yikes factor for LSU, we're going to stick on A&M a little bit more for a second. I just want to say the depth on this team is insanely good, and they're so fun. And the third quarter was maybe the most dominant quarter that I've seen from a football team in a long time on the road at an SEC environment like this at night. I mean, it was unbelievable. They went out there. It was 18-14. They were down at the end of the second quarter, and they basically went 28-0 in the third quarter. On the stat sheet, it's 21-0, but they scored on like the second play of the fourth quarter on a second and goal. So it was basically 28-0 in the third quarter, and they dominated all aspects of the football game. Offensively, they were flying down the field. LSU had no idea what they were doing in the third quarter on defense. I mean, A&M just could do whatever they want. And then defensively, I think A&M allowed 14 total yards in the third quarter. Nussmeier was sacked a couple times, just was completely confused. And then special teams. I mean, A&M had a explosive kick return. They had a punt return touchdown, and then another explosive punt return. So the Aggies just came out of halftime and absolutely dominated every aspect of this football game. I don't know what Mike Elko showed him at halftime. I don't know if he yelled at him. I don't know if he sang him a lullaby. I don't know if he made him watch a movie, watch an inspirational quote. Whatever it was that Elko was doing in the locker room at halftime just got this team absolutely clicking and looking like the best team in the country. And then, of course, they closed out in the fourth quarter. And what I love from this Texas A&M Aggies team is just I really love this fan base. I love the Aggies fan base. I know a lot of people say they're cultish. I think this is what, again, one of the things that makes college football the best is the fans. And I just loved, after this game, how ABC kept the broadcast on, and all the Aggie fans came down by the band, and Mike Elko, Casey Concepcion, Marcel Reed, all the fans, the band, they were all doing the Aggie sway, and everything. I thought it was legendary. Just a huge moment for this program. And I want to make just a drastic, maybe overreactive claim here. I already talked about Vanderbilt having their best team ever. I'm just posing a question. Is this the best Texas A&M team of all time? I mean, I'm just putting it out there. They're 8-0 for the first time since 1991. This team, this is the best, at least, team that they've ever had in the SEC. It's got to be. I mean, their offense is dynamic. I've just talked about how great it is. Their defense, their linebackers are the best in the SEC, man. Scooby Williams, Torian York, these dudes fly. The secondary's great. The special teams obviously are dominant. I think this is the best Texas A&M team, at least in the last 40 years. So, and it's also, even if that's not true, this is Mike Elko's second year, and he has the Aggies ranked in the top 3 at the top of the SEC standings, and he has them going on the road at night to Death Valley and winning by 24 points. So yes, this is one of the best coaching jobs that we've seen in the SEC in a while. Of course, I'm talking about just the first 2 years. Of course, it doesn't stand anything close to what Nick Saban was able to accomplish. But still, I mean, I'm just saying, this A&M team is phenomenal. That's basically my point. Do I trust them to win a national championship? I still think they're vulnerable on offense. Of course, I just said how explosive they are. But I still don't trust Marcel Reed if you make him throw the ball. I just don't know if you can do that. I mean, making him throw the ball is so hard because that means you have to, A, stop the run, and B, tackle in the open space. And that's just so hard to do against this Texas A&M team. So I don't think that they're the best team in the country, but I do think they're really, really good, guys. And they still have to play Missouri on the road, Texas on the road, and they have South Carolina at home. So they could slip up still, but, I mean, they're already 8-0. I mean, the thing is, everyone says, oh, A&M, they always go 8-4. Do we really think they're going to lose 4 games in a row to end the season? I don't think so. So watch out, college football world. The Aggies are for real. The Aggies are here. And the Aggies are embarrassing high-quality opponents. Speaking of high-quality opponents, we're going to shift our topic of conversation now to the LSU Tigers, the Bayou Bengals. Of course, I want to give some credit to LSU. Just want to give some context here. I think their offense is very injured. I think it's very banged up. Nussmeier, of course, I don't think is at 100% still. I still think that Aaron Anderson is dealing with injuries. Nick Anderson's dealing with injuries. Caden Durham is not at 100% from what I've seen. The offensive line is banged up. I mean, this is a very injured offense, and it's really hard to operate with those circumstances. So you got to give them a little leeway there. But, man, the thing that was so shocking to me about this game was that their defense just had no answers for this A&M offense. I mean, the only time they were really able to get stops was when Marcel Reed threw a couple of interceptions. I mean, other than that, let's read out this A&M drive chart if we can. So A&M went touchdown, touchdown. They had their punt blocked, so 3 and out. So touchdown, touchdown, 3 and out. They got all the way to the red zone and threw an interception. They threw another interception. Then they went touchdown, 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 touchdown. End of game. There was no answer. LSU could not stop A&M to save their lives in this football game, which I just did not see coming. Their secondary got torched. Their linebackers were completely out of position on almost every single play. They couldn't run man coverage. They couldn't run zone coverage. They couldn't tackle in the open field. And up front, it looked like they were a JV football team. So that was what was most disappointing to me. Basically what I'm trying to say is it makes sense that their offense struggled in this football game because A&M's got a great defense and their offense is really banged up. But they should have at least done something more on defense than what they did, especially with the crowd on their side. I was shocked by it. I will say offensively, Garrett Nussmeier just looks like a passionless football player. I think I used to love Garrett Nussmeier. I loved him last year. The year before that, I think he was great. He came in to back up Jane Daniels a couple times against Alabama, against Georgia in the SEC championship game, and he just looked like he had no fear out there. He was playing, he was having fun. He was throwing the ball into tight windows. He was really just slinging it. And I loved the way that he ripped the football down the field. Even last year, he played fearlessly. And I think sort of what's happened with Garrett Nussmeier, other than, of course, the injury problems, I think the draft hype has gotten to him a little bit. I think he's heard all about how he could be a first overall pick, how he could be the best quarterback in the SEC, how he can have such a huge, awesome future in the NFL. And I think that is where his goals have shifted to, and I think that's where his mindset is. And when he makes mistakes, he's worried. He's not playing fearlessly anymore. He's not playing with passion. He's playing with worry and anxiety and stress that he's not going to live up to the hype that other people are giving him and that he has placed on himself. To me, it just looks like he's not having fun out there. And when you're not having fun as a football player, it's just not going to work out for you. You're not going to have the passion it takes to win football games. Of course, it doesn't help that he's not surrounded by a healthy team. But it just is what it is, to be honest, with Garrett Nussmeier. I will say just another positive thing about LSU. Trey'Dez Green is a dog. I mean, that dude makes plays. That, to me, is the best bright spot of this LSU football team, was how good Trey'Dez Green is. Even despite all the injuries LSU suffered, Trey'Dez Green has gone out there and he's just a freak athlete. He's fast. He can make you miss. He can break tackles. He can go up and high point one-on-one footballs in the red zone. That dude is going to be a good player for a while in the world of football, in my opinion. I will say, halftime adjustments, man. I don't know what you're doing in there, Brian Kelly. You had the lead at home at night against the top 5 team. The crowd was into it. This was an awesome game in the first half. And you go into halftime and your team comes out just looking like a dried up dead flower. That's the best way I can describe it. So, of course, LSU fans are chanting, "Fire Kelly." Everyone in the college football world is all about firing Brian Kelly. Do I think LSU will fire Brian Kelly? Not yet. First of all, I think it's a bad idea to fire a head coach in the middle of the season. I think it's bad for the players. They don't get the development that they need. They don't get the coach's attentions, and you have to re-haul a whole coaching staff in the middle of the season. I don't think it's a good move. Personally, I think that LSU is going to finish like 7-5, 8-4, and the loss at Oklahoma after that, they're going to fire Brian Kelly. I think that Brian Kelly should be fired, and I didn't think James Franklin should be fired. I didn't think that Hugh Freeze should be fired. I don't think he's going to be, but I don't think he should be. But I definitely do think Brian Kelly should be. I just don't like the culture he's built there. I mean, just compare LSU to A&M. Is LSU really that worse of a job, that worse of a program than Texas A&M? I don't think so. And yet Mike Elko's in his second year, and he's got A&M at the top of the SEC. Brian Kelly's in his 4th year, and he's got A&M at 5-3 and getting blown out at home. So just even take a look at that. And apparently he doesn't have the heart and soul of this team. He doesn't have the heart and soul of this fan base, that's for sure. I don't think Brian Kelly makes it through this season. And just an unfortunate year for LSU. I mean, think about it. 4 weeks ago, we're talking about this LSU team as national title contenders, and they were the top-ranked team in the SEC. Now they're 5-3. They're losing by 4 possessions at home, and they're going to be unranked. So, quite the turnaround for the Bayou Bengals. But we're going to move on from the negative talk about LSU. We're going to go to Columbia, South Carolina to talk about Cocktober. We're going to talk about Alabama traveling on the road and nearly losing to South Carolina. This was a crazy game. And honestly, this is 3 straight weeks for the Alabama Crimson Tide where they have not outgained their opponent in total yards and have found a way to win. Whether it's a 99-yard pick six, whether it's a Deontay Lawson forced fumble, whether it is just a Ty Simpson dot on 4th down and 8, whatever it is, Alabama is finding ways to win football games. So let's talk about how this happened. First of all, South Carolina played a heck of a first half. You might say, oh, they were down 14-6 at halftime. How can you say that? Well, South Carolina had way more first downs, way more time of possession, way more total yards. They were by far the better team in the first half. They just made a couple big mistakes. First of all, the drop by their running back number 1 that led to the Alabama pick six was really bad. Of course, great play by Alabama for being there. But I think South Carolina outplayed the Tide in the first half, and then especially in the third quarter. And then Alabama just made plays late to survive on the road. Heck of an environment. Super fun game to watch as a college football fan. And I really did think that, once again, South Carolina deserved to win this football game. They just made a couple of terrible mistakes. And shout out Alabama for capitalizing on them. I will say that the positives for Alabama, first of all, the big moments. I mean, Alabama, again, was great on third down. I think they were 8 for 16 on third down. They were great in the red zone for the most part. Their defense Deontay Lawson forced a huge fumble at the end of this game. Jeremy Bernard stepped up when they really needed him to be there. Ryan Williams made a couple big catches, even though he dropped one. That was really bad. But yeah, Alabama was 8 for 12 on third down. And to me, that was really one of the main reasons they won this game. They improved to 5-0 in the conference, so at least there's that. I said this last week with Alabama, and my mom even texted me about it. I said, Alabama, this is a vulnerable football team. I've not been impressed with them. Even though they're winning football games, I've not been impressed. And my mom texted me, and she said, Robert, how are you so down on Alabama? Like, they've won 4 straight games in the SEC against ranked teams. And you're talking about, like, that they're not that good of a football team. To that I say, I understand. Alabama, to me, still has the best resume in college football. And this is not an easy game to win at all. I mean, on the road at South Carolina in October, difficult game. Barely any teams are winning this football game. And Alabama did, despite how bad they played, despite getting outgained. They had less time of possession, way less running yards, despite not being able to tackle South Carolina's quarterback, Lenore Sellers. The Tide still pulled it out. So I have to give them credit. I'm just saying, Alabama is so vulnerable on offense. This offense is not clicking at all. I mean, they can't run the ball whatsoever. If you look at the box score, Jam Miller, 10 carries for 26 yards. That's nothing. Daniel Hill, 3 carries for 10 yards. Their running backs combined, 13 carries for 36 yards. That's barely over 2 yards per carry. So, A, they can't run the ball. B, these receivers keep dropping passes and not beating zone coverage. Your leading receiver was Daniel Hill somehow. I mean, that's kind of crazy in and of itself. But yet again, I mean, South Carolina was able to run man coverage against Alabama and successfully win matchups. These receivers are not creating that much separation. Ryan dropped a pass. Jeremy dropped a pass. Rico Scott dropped a pass. And Ty missed a couple throws. Ty Simpson is not... He's not some sort of Greek god out there with the football wearing number 15. He missed some throws against South Carolina that luckily didn't come back to cost him this game. But this offense, to me, is not as impressive as everyone is saying it is. Even the offensive line, I mean, they allowed some pass rush today. Not that Dylan Stewart's not great, but I'm just saying, Alabama's offense is not an elite offense in college football, in my opinion. It's just not. Defensively, I think they were good. I think a lot of people are going to say, how can we not tackle Lenore Sellers? How are we not making plays? How are we not getting this guy on the ground? And I understand that, and rightfully so, because he broke about 18,000 sacks. But that's just the type of player Lenore Sellers is. He's going to make those plays. This happened last year against Alabama. This happens against every single team that South Carolina plays. I said, the way that South Carolina wins this football game is they force turnovers and Lenore Sellers makes plays. Well, guess what? One of those things happened. He had 18 carries for 67 yards. It felt like way more than that, to be honest. And they did not win the turnover battle. Again, that was one of the main reasons they lost this game. But I think that Alabama's defense was still good in this game. They allowed the one big pass play to Nick Harbor. Other than that, they were pretty good at eliminating big plays. And South Carolina didn't run the ball as dominantly as some may expect with their running backs. So I think that the issue with the Alabama Crimson Tide, I think, is more on the offense, just not having any consistency. They can't run the ball. Receivers can't create separation. Offensive line is getting beat, and their quarterback is not perfect. Am I being too picky? I might be. But do I like Alabama to make the playoffs? Yes. Do I like them to win the SEC? Probably not. Do I like them to win a national championship? In my eyes, the answer is no. But, again, teams can improve. And Alabama has improved already so much this season. So, who's to say they can't improve a little bit more? And just a deflating loss for South Carolina. They really gave it their all. Beamer wanted that game so bad. You could tell on the sideline. He was really coaching his heart out. And South Carolina just came up that short. Other wares in the SEC, and I'm not going to lie. I mean, usually I try and spread it out conference-wise. And I think college football is great. I think SEC football is great, but I think college football in general I enjoy better. But this week, especially, more than any other week this year, the best games, the best storylines, the best college football was 100% SEC college football this week. If you're doubting me, I'm about to talk about Texas, Mississippi State, like nearly an hour into the podcast. Now I'm talking about this game. If you watch Texas play Mississippi State, this might have been the game of the week. This was an unreal game. Mississippi State was up 38-21 with like 10 minutes, not even 10, it was like 8 minutes left, and Texas still found a way to win this football game. Of course, we've trashed Texas's offense a lot on this show, and rightfully so. They've been terrible this season. It's been embarrassing. They were much better in this football game. Arch Manning had his best game by far. He threw for like 359 yards and 3 touchdowns. Ryan Wingo finally made plays. Parker Livingstone made plays. Texas had a couple of catches on the sideline in the end zone. Wow. Parker Livingstone, of course, I already mentioned his name. Mosley made a huge catch in overtime. Finally, these Texas playmakers, these talented wideouts are finally helping out their quarterback making big plays. Their offensive line played a lot better. Of course, they couldn't run the ball very well again because the guard position is still a big question mark. But they pass protected a lot better, gave Arch time. Arch played a lot better. And this offense put up 45 points in this football game. Of course, one of those scores was in overtime, and they got another punt return touchdown by Ryan Niblett. That guy's just going to keep bailing them out in these football games. But huge win for Texas on the road. They stave off playoff elimination. They're, I guess, technically still alive. They only have one SEC loss, which is just as many as Ole Miss has. So if you want to compare that, there you go. But this Texas defense is the first time that they got shelled. If I'm being honest, I think it was for two main reasons that Mississippi State was able to play so well. First of all, Mississippi State's a good offense. Let's not act like UAB just put up 38 against Texas. Mississippi State's a good football team. But when I look at Texas, I saw a weak cornerback play. I don't think their corners played that great. And they didn't tackle all that well in the open field. So if I'm the Texas defensive coordinator, those are the two things I'm emphasizing in practice is better coverage from the corners, especially in man coverage in the red zone. They were getting torched. And then also, they need to tackle better if they want to win these football games at a more consistent rate. But man, I feel bad for Mississippi State. They really should have won this game. They had this game under wraps in the fourth quarter. And, of course, they haven't won an SEC game in forever. I think they've lost like 25 straight SEC games or something like that. And they had them. They had the Longhorns. And they just snatched defeat from the jaws of victory. They got it to overtime, and they just completely sputtered out on offense. So, a great effort from Blake Shapen, great effort from Evans and the rest of this talented Mississippi State football team. I do still really like Jeff Lebby as an offensive mind, as a head football coach. And I think things are definitely improving in Starkville. Just an awesome football game. I just wanted to mention it. And just wanted to mention that Texas stays alive in this playoff hunt. They've got a big game next week. I forget exactly who it is, who they play. And I think it's Vandy. I think they play Vandy at home, now that I'm thinking about it. Yeah, they got Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt at home, November 1st, 11 o'clock kick. Early kick on ABC. That is a huge game. And then they also got Georgia, Arkansas, and Texas A&M to finish the season. So you've still got to play 3 top 10 teams if you're Texas, not to mention Arkansas. Texas wants to make the playoffs. If they want to make the SEC championship game, at least they probably have to win out. I don't know if they're capable of doing that, but we'll see. Last couple things I wanted to talk about in this instant reaction podcast. How about Memphis getting a huge win? Will and I both picked South Florida to win this football game, and for a while it looked like they were going to. I saw so many times South Florida just flying down the field. Byron Brown made so many huge plays in this football game. But Memphis's blitz packages kept them in it, just like we said. Their offense kept them in it. They made big plays, and they hit a walk-off field goal at the end to win this football game. Big-time win for the Memphis Tigers. And after losing to UAB, devastating loss to a 2-4 football team, they bounce back and get their best win of the season. So other than, well, I guess them and Arkansas is pretty similar, but huge win for Memphis nonetheless. They are now, I guess, the front runners in the American Conference, but Navy did win again. I mean, I'm just going to keep bringing it up because it keeps happening. The Navy midshipmen are still undefeated. And if no one else wants to give them their flowers in the college football media world, if ESPN wants to keep talking about 5-2 Texas, I'm going to be here mentioning Navy because they are undefeated and we had them, or I'm not going to say we because Will didn't. I had them in my preseason playoff projections, and they are high atop the American standings. So good for Navy for winning that football game. But huge win for Memphis. Does this eliminate South Florida from playoff contention? Perhaps. This is their first loss in conference, so they could still make the American Conference Championship game. They still get to play Navy. I think they play Tulane also, so we'll see. A lot of big games left for the Bulls. It's still possible. That win over Boise State is huge that they have in the playoff race, by the way, in week 1 because they get the tiebreaker out basically over any Mountain West team. But huge win for Memphis. They are now 7-1, I believe. So big-time stuff from the Tigers. Let's talk about the ACC. So Miami bounces back big time. It was against Stanford at home. I understand that. Those uniforms were ugly. I will just have to say that's my opinion. Miami brought out these new uniforms. They had black helmets and these weird orange jerseys. I thought it was disgusting. But I was a fan of the play on the field that I saw. Their defense played a lot better than they did against Louisville. I'm just saying that Louisville loss could have been the best thing that happened to this football team. It could wake them up. It could get them ready. It could get them in the right headspace to go through the rest of the season. So Miami is still dangerous. They're still a spooky team. Georgia Tech, for the first time in a long time, first time maybe in ACC play, Georgia Tech had a comfortable, easy win. They covered the spread and they rolled against Syracuse. Now, Syracuse's defense to me is just like paper mache. So, I mean, you got to account for that. But Haynes King played great. Their skill position players played great. And big time win for Georgia Tech. They're still on. They're 8-0. Georgia Tech is 8-0. If they could somehow get to the Georgia game undefeated, my goodness, that's going to be a crazy, crazy football game. Crazy atmosphere in Mercedes-Benz Stadium. I'm going to check out the remainder of this Georgia Tech schedule. Now, listen, I am a huge Haynes King fan. I have been forever. He's my favorite player in college football, so I'm really happy with this Georgia Tech stuff. I'm just surprised they're still undefeated. I mean, I had them preseason ranked at my number 19 spot power-wise, but they're doing better than even I thought they were going to do. Georgia Tech plays at NC State, at Boston College, and versus Pitt. So that's 4-4 NC State, 1-7 Boston College, 6-2 Pitt, and then 6-1 Georgia. So, of course, it's not going to be easy the rest of the way. But it seems if they win 2 of the next 3 in the ACC, they will make the ACC championship game, and then they'll be 1 win away from the playoffs. So shout out Brent Key, shout out Haynes King, this Georgia Tech team for still being undefeated. Elsewhere in the ACC, I was shocked that SMU lost to Wake Forest. Completely shocked. I don't even know what happened. I didn't watch the game, but they got shut down on offense. 13-12 was the final score. They now have to beat Miami. I think if they want playoff chances, they've got 3 losses already, so they have to win the ACC to make it in. And to do that, they're going to have to beat Miami. Is it doable? Yes. Is it possible? Well, I guess that's not the right way to phrase that. Is it possible? Yes. Is it likely? No. Virginia, there's always an ACC team every year, or not every year, every week that just gets lucky in a game that they should win by a lot, and they get outplayed and they find a way to win. It's been Georgia Tech a lot this season. This week it was Virginia. They won on a 2-point conversion stop in overtime against North Carolina. We all know how bad North Carolina's been this year, so we got to pick it up, Virginia. But a team that I think if they control their own destiny in the ACC, Louisville got another big win. They beat Boston College. I know they're one of the bottom tier teams in the ACC, but a big win for Louisville nonetheless because it is a win. So if I'm predicting the ACC playoffs, Louisville, Georgia Tech, is that what we're going to get? It is crazy. Georgia Tech has such an easy ACC schedule. They dodge SMU, Miami, and SMU, Virginia, Louisville, and Miami is who Georgia Tech doesn't play. Those are the other best teams in the ACC right now. So if I'm predicting it, I'm predicting Georgia Tech and Louisville, which is crazy that I'm predicting Miami not to be in the ACC championship game, but it could happen. Last conference I want to talk about, the Big 12. The two teams undefeated in the conference going into this week in conference play, Cincinnati and BYU, both win. BYU got a huge comeback win, by the way, on the road at Iowa State. That was a great game. Not a lot of people were watching because other 2:30 games were going on, but huge win for BYU. And then Cincinnati beat Baylor. Their defense played great in that game. They smoked Baylor. And then how about Houston? Houston's a one-loss team in the Big 12. They just beat Arizona State on the road. How about the Cougs, man? Representing H-Town, best city in the country. Texas Tech, also one-loss team in the Big 12. They smoked Oklahoma State, along with everybody else in this conference. So those are the four teams right now that seem to have a hold on the Big 12 title race: Cincinnati, BYU, Houston, and Texas Tech. That's what I got for the Big 12. Oh, I forgot to talk about Ole Miss. I'm sorry, Lane Kiffin. We're going to finish the show talking about Ole Miss and Oklahoma because I forgot to talk about this football game. All right, man, my sincere apologies. I feel bad. So, Ole Miss traveled to Norman to take on the Oklahoma Sooners. This was one of the games of the week, and heading into this weekend was one of the most highly talked about games, and it was a great football game. Ole Miss was winning for most of this game. Oklahoma was able to generate a lot of big plays, which hadn't really happened with this offense before. Got him back in it, and then Ole Miss pulled away in the fourth quarter to win this football game. I picked Ole Miss. I thought Lane Kiffin was going to be just too much, and to me, that was exactly what happened. Lane Kiffin, you are a mastermind, sir. Listen, I love Trinidad Chambliss. I love this quarterback. I think he's dynamic. He's good on third down. He can rip throws, and he makes a lot of big plays. But Trinidad Chambliss is not why this offense is humming. This offense is humming because Lane Kiffin is a genius. Trinidad missed some throws this game. He missed a deep throw to Luke Haas. He's off timing on some of his throws. He's not perfect. But Lane Kiffin just does such a good job exploiting zone coverage. Whether it's, he slips the tight end out so well. Their RPOs are so hard to stop. I mean, this Ole Miss football team is just almost impossible to stop offensively. Not entirely because of personnel, but just because of coaching. So it's so impressive what Lane Kiffin is doing. If any program in the country can get their hands on Lane Kiffin, I think they should be happy. So big time stuff from him. Oklahoma, I have some positives about this team. First of all, also I'll stay on Ole Miss for a little bit longer. Their defensive line played great this game. Princely Yu, I'm not going to try and pronounce his last name. Princely Yu was dominant in this game. He had a couple sacks. Ole Miss had a safety. So their front seven played great. But moving to Oklahoma now, they ran the ball better than almost they ever have. 136 rushing yards in this football game. And I believe it was their backup running back. I keep forgetting his name. Xavier Robinson? Xavier Robinson had a huge game. 9 carries, 109 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He had a 65-yard run. So they ran the ball a lot better than they normally have, and then they had some explosive pass plays to Satania and another one to Satania, just 2 to Satania. So this offense played better than I thought they were going to. If I'm being honest, I think John Mateer really struggled in this game, especially with the throws downfield. Now, Mateer makes a lot of great plays. He's so good at evading sacks. Best in the SEC other than Lenore Sellers, from what I can tell, at evading sacks and making plays outside the pocket when a play breaks down. But he missed some throws today, man. There were some open throws down the field that he missed, and there were some times where he tried to squeeze it into windows down the field when you had checkdowns wide open. So I was not impressed with my preseason Heisman pick in this football game, and I think that's one of the main reasons Oklahoma lost. Now, I will say, preseason I had Oklahoma in the playoffs, and I had Oklahoma losing to Texas, Ole Miss, and Alabama. So far, I have not missed on my preseason projection for Oklahoma and my in-season game picks for Oklahoma. So, preseason, I had them losing to Texas and Ole Miss and still making the playoffs. So, yes, I think it is possible. But they have to play at Tennessee, at Alabama, Missouri, and LSU. In my eyes, you need to win 3 of these 4 games to make the playoffs for Oklahoma. And at Tennessee is going to be rough. It's 6:30 kick at Neyland Stadium on ABC. That place is going to be rocking. Rocky Top is not going to be a fun environment to play in for Oklahoma. Then you got to play at Alabama after a bye week. And that game's not going to be easy to win, of course. Then you got to play Missouri at home. They're going to be hungry for a win. And then you play LSU. Brian Kelly might need a win. So, I don't know. I mean, I picked this to happen. In preseason, I picked Oklahoma to make the playoffs. I just don't know what I'm going to see from the Sooners the rest of the way. But this is more about Ole Miss. Huge win for the Rebels. And Ole Miss is very much a playoff team, in my opinion. As far as SEC standards go, their schedule is really not that bad the rest of the way. Of course, it's the same schedule they had last year, and they found a way to mess it up. But they have South Carolina, Florida, and Mississippi State in the Citadel. So, very winnable schedule. They just have to not choke. And if they win 3 of their next 4 games, they will be in the playoffs, probably. Which means just have to beat out of South Carolina, Florida, and Mississippi State. Just lose one of those games, and you're in. So, I've been really impressed with what Ole Miss has been able to do this season. I think they make the playoffs because of how good their offense is and because of their front 7. So, good stuff from the Rebs and good stuff from the rest of the college football world. And thank you so much for watching. That's all that I have for my instant reactions. It was a fun one to make. I hope you had fun watching. If you know other people that love college football and would love to listen to another college football podcast, feel free to send them this way. We'd love to have them, of course. I just like talking about sports, and I like talking about college football, and anyone that wants to watch, I'm welcome for them to watch. That's why I post them on YouTube and Spotify, of course. So just once again, thanks for watching. If you leave this video with anything, it's that God loves you. God is here for you. No matter where you are, who you are, what you're dealing with, who you're with, God loves you and He has a plan for you. And our job as humans is just to put our faith in Him, put our hope in Him, and love others as He has called us to do. So go make someone smile this weekend, the rest of this week. I hope that y'all find peace, and I hope that y'all have a great week. And thank you so much for watching. God bless, and I'll see y'all later. Thanks for watching.